On the jagged cliffs of the northeastern Atlantic, with waves crashed with relentless fury against the rocks, stood a lighthouse. For as long as anyone could remember, the lighthouse had been a beacon for ships navigating the treacherous coastline. Its light shone through the thickest fog, indeed the darkest nights, a guiding force for sailors who would otherwise be lost to the sea. The keeper of this lighthouse was an old man named Samuel. He was a quiet, solitary figure, known to the villagers as the man who never slept, never left his post, and whose only companions were the gulls and the sound of the waves. Samuel lived in a small stone cottage adjacent to the lighthouse, furnished simply with a wooden bed, a small table, and a few shelves lined with lanterns, tools, and journals filled with meticulous observations of tides and storms. Though poor by any worldly measure, he had a richness of heart that the villagers often overlooked. Samuel loved his work not for fame or reward, but for the satisfaction of knowing that his light saved lives. Every evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, he would climb the spiraling stairs to the top of the lighthouse, light the lamp, and make sure it burned steadily until dawn. The villagers often whispered about him. Some admired his dedication, others pitied him for living such a lonely life. One evening, a particularly violent storm rolled in from the Atlantic. The wind howled like a chorus of wailing spirits, and the waves pummeled the cliffs with a force that shook the fetty ground beneath Samuel's feet. He climbed to the lighthouse as usual, lighting the lamp and adjusting the lenses. As he peered through the fog, he noticed a faint shape struggling far below, a ship tossed violently in the waves. The vessel was tiny compared to the roaring ocean, and it seemed impossible that it could survive. Samuel's heart raced. He ran down to the cliffside, scanning the rocks and the waves, but there was nothing he could do from that distance. Then, as he turned back toward the lighthouse, his eyes caught something unusual near the base of the tower, a faint glimmer in the mud and the rocks, almost like a whisper of light fighting against the storm. Curious, he made his way carefully down the wet, slippery stones. Buried partially in the soil and the sand was a small, ornate chest. Its surface shimmered faintly despite the storm, etched with symbols Samuel did not recognize. With effort, he pried the chest open and discovered dozens of crystalline objects inside, each glowing faintly with an inner fire. The glow was not harsh or unnatural. It was warm, comforting, and strangely reassuring. Samuel picked up one of the crystals and held it close to his chest. It pulsed gently, almost like a heartbeat. But in the lighthouse, Samuel placed the crystal near the lamp. Instantly, the ordinary light of the lamp intensified, growing brighter, steadier, and almost alive. The beam shot through the fog with astonishing clarity. Below, the struggling ship finally saw the light, and adjusted its course, narrowly avoiding the rocks. Samuel's heart swelled with a mixture of awe and relief. He had never seen a lamp burn with such brilliance. The storm passed by morning, and Samuel sat by the lighthouse window, staring at the calm sea. Word of the miraculous light spread quickly. Fishermen and sailors spoke of the lighthouse that burned brighter than any other, saving lives even in the densest fog. Villagers came to see the old man and his glowing crystals, and soon, Samuel's quiet existence became the center of attention. Despite the attention, Samuel remained humble. He warned the villagers repeatedly, "This light is not ours to hoard. It is a gift, yes, but it is fragile. Treat it with respect, and it will guide you as. Treat it with greed, and it will fail." At first, the villagers listened politely. They marveled at the crystals and Samuel's dedication, helping him maintain the lighthouse and bringing food to his table. But human nature is rarely satisfied with caution. The villagers began to ask for more. "If one crystal can save ships, think of what a few dozen could do," sighed the blacksmith, a once humble man whose workshop now thrived because of the attention brought to the village. "We could sell tickets, attract merchants, become rich." Samuel frowned. "This light is not meant for profit. It is meant to protect life, not enrich ourselves." The villagers shrugged, their eyes fixed on the glowing crystals, shimmering like gold. They started collecting the crystals for themselves, ignoring Samuel's warnings. Soon, the lighthouse lamp burned brighter than ever, and the village flourished. Merchants came from distant cities, eager to trade with the village blessed by the miraculous light. The villagers wore finer clothes, their homes were expanded, and their laughter filled the streets. But as prosperity grew, so did pride. The villagers began to look down on neighboring towns, mocking those who struggled with storms or poor harvests. They boasted endlessly about the miraculous lighthouse and Samuel's crystals, forgetting the humble man who had warned them. Even Samuel noticed the change and he felt a growing unease. One evening, as Samuel climbed the lighthouse stairs, he felt a chill he could not shake. The crystals, once vibrant, had dulled. Their inner glow flickered like a candle in the wind. He adjusted the lamp, but it could not hold the light as before. Outside, the sky darkened unnaturally, and the fog rolled in thicker than any storm they had ever seen. The villagers panicked. Ships were once again lost at sea. Merchants refused to come. The wills that had made them arrogant vanished almost overnight. People turned to Samuel, desperate and frightened. "You were right," sighed the blacksmith, now humbled. "We let greed blind us. The light, it's failing." Samuel nodded quietly, his eyes filled with both sadness and resolve. "We forgot what matters most," he said. "The light is not ours to control. It is a responsibility, not a treasure. True protection comes from care, not from wealth." Over the next weeks, Samuel worked tirelessly, teaching the villagers to maintain the lighthouse using simple lanterns and basic techniques. Together, they rebuilt the village's systems, repaired homes, and learned to value each other over riches. Slowly, the lighthouse lamp regained some of its glow, not as brilliant as the crystals had made it, but steady, reliable, and pure. The villagers learned humility through loss, discovering that prosperity built on greed is fleeting. They never again sought to hoard the crystals or exploit the miraculous light. Instead, they focused on helping each other, guiding lost ships with teamwork and care. Samuel, the once solitary lighthouse keeper, found himself surrounded by neighbors who genuinely valued his wisdom and kindness. Though he remained humble and quiet, he smiled more often, seeing a community united not by wealth, but by shared responsibility and respect. Years later, sailors would still speak of the lighthouse that burned brighter than any other on the coast, not because of crystals, but because of the people who tended it with care, humility, and courage. And Samuel, the man who had always worked quietly at his post, was remembered not as a miracle worker, but as the heart that kept the light alive. Moral of the story: true power and influence come not from wealth or miracles, but from humility, care, and a commitment to protect others. Greed may shine briefly, but responsibility and kindness create a light that endures.